What's going on, everybody? D-Style Boxing here. This is the 102nd edition of the Roundtable, also the 2-year anniversary. Thanks to everybody joining us. If you're listening on archive or replay, make sure you hit the like button. Share this video on all your social media platforms. We have a great show, and as we know, we had a packed weekend of fights. We didn't have much the last 2 weeks, but the boxing gods have, they've given us some. All right. Shout out to Joe Habib right next to me right here, partner in crime from Ringside Reporter. Rebecca Ruber, how's it going? I hope everything's good.
For having me.
Absolutely. Marquis on here. How's it going, brother? You're still working with NY Fights?
Despite my efforts. What's going on, guys? I'm glad to have some ladies on here. I think I was the hottest chick last time I was on here, but great to be able to you guys again.
There you go. We also have in the ring with Christine, coach from USA Boxing. How's it going? All right. Subscribe to our channel. Check out Women Crushing Wednesdays every Wednesday, of course. And, of course, we have Lyndon on here, a former, Olympic boxer from Atlanta. All right. Just found out that earlier. And Commonwealth boxer as well. And has a podcast on here, Boxing Deep Dive. So make sure you guys check that out. The links to everybody's channel here will be on the description box once this goes on replay. All right, let's go ahead and get this started. A lot to talk about, and I want to start with the fight that everyone's anticipating and excited about it. Nobody can stop talking about this fight. The return of Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant will be fighting Anthony Dirrell. All right, now granted, in a spirited effort, in fairness, he had a spirited effort against Saul Canelo Alvarez, who was hot and became undisputed champion and winning that fight. And, he came up short, but now he's starting his comeback, and we'll see where it goes from there. Joe Habib, how do you see this fight playing out, brother?
Styles make fights, and the thing about Caleb Plant is he tends to have those lulls, in certain parts of rounds. It's not the same type of fight for Durrell that David Benavidez was, where David Benavidez constantly gave you pressure, fast pace. Like I said, Caleb Plant kind of fights in spurts. Sometimes he takes rounds off, he fades a little bit, and he's not as offensive-minded as David Benavidez was. So I do think this fight will be a little bit more interesting than people think. It's hard to not favor Plant here, but I think Durrell will give him a little bit of a run. And I think this could be a more competitive fight that people are anticipating. And again, with Durrell, he's a very offensive-minded guy. He's got a good jab. He's aggressive. He's a pretty decent boxer all around. Obviously he's faded a little bit, but he does have some a good mid-range game. He's got a great left hook, a great uppercut, so he could make this fight interesting. But I do think Plant will end up winning in the end, but I just think it'll be a better fight than advertised.
All right, Remy, I appreciate what it says. This weekend should be fire. Pack weekend for boxing. Absolutely. Thanks for the support, brother. All right. Rebecca Ruber from Inside the Ring. Talk to us. What do you think about this fight?
So I'm excited to see Plant back in the ring. I've been waiting for him to get back in the ring now that he's had his child. I'm glad to see him back in the ring at the Barclays Center. He's never fought in New York before, so being a tri-state area girl, definitely excited to see him fight in the Big Apple. I think that at the end of the day, I think Plant is going to take home the W, maybe by unanimous decision. So I'm not familiar with the way like betting books and like sports betting is, but supposedly from a couple things that I read, Durrell is like a major underdog, like by a lot. And I honestly don't understand why. Because I think that he's one of Plant's best opponents besides fighting Canelo, of course. So I was actually really surprised when I heard Durrell is as much of an underdog in the betting books as he is. I think that, like Joe said, you can't underestimate Durrell. I think that he's fast, he can punch, he has skills and experience that I think is going to make the fight more entertaining than what people are anticipating that are talking on boxing Twitter right now. But I think Plant has something to prove in this fight. I think that he fights with a lot of soul, a lot of passion. And also, like Joe said, styles make fights. I think that Plant does need to pressure in this fight if he's going to come out victorious. But it's all going to come down to how both fighters feel Saturday night.
Absolutely. Christine? How do you see this fight playing out?
Well, I wish I could say that I'm like super, super excited about this matchup,
I could
but
tell.
I'm not. But it's gonna happen. So we're talking about it. I'm with Joe. You know, Plant does gas out. We don't ever know like in what round he's gonna take off or whatever. And I think that is when Durrell is gonna have to like push the gas because he's been calling out Canelo for like so long, you know, and he wants to prove that he should be there. Plant fought him. He should fight him. So he has a lot to prove that night. But so does Plant. He's just coming off a loss, you know, and supposedly Durrell's going to be the tune-up fight to get him back on track. So the pressure's on for both. I do believe that if Caleb boxes him long and keeps him on the outside, then he should get his hand raised. But I don't know. I don't know what kind of mindset he's going to be going in to this fight. Or Dirrell. Dirrell knows he needs to be a dog. He's an OG. He's got some tricks up his sleeve, and I think he's going to pull out all the stops. But I do think that Plant will get his hand raised.
Okay. All right. Marquise, how do you see this fight, brother?
Boring as all the tears, guys. I am not for this fight at all. We should have gotten this fight 4 years ago. That's why I'm not a fan of this fight at all. Like, at all. And one of the things with this fight I think that's interesting about it is that it just shows us all, guys, how thin, and I mean watered-down, Sprite-thin 168 really is. And we're still talking about 39-year-old Anthony Durrell, who's the same age as me, talking about coming back in the comeback fight against Caleb Plant on pay-per-view. So I'm with Christine on this. I'm willing to pass the buck and keep it moving. I expect two things to happen: a Plant unanimous decision and a Anthony Durrell eye gash in about the 5th round. I'm pretty sure those two things are going to happen. You can go ahead and put that to the bank.
All right. Okay. Lyndon Hoskin, talk to us. How do you see this fight? Are you looking forward to this fight?
Look, I'm probably with Christine here. It's probably not the most exciting fight I'm looking forward to this weekend, and same as Marcus said, I think that it is 4 years or 5 years even too late. Yeah. Look, I think Caleb gets the job done. I think he's, I just think his overall skills be a little bit too much for a faded Durrell, and I think Caleb Plant gets a unanimous decision in a pretty lackluster fight.
Now, I was reading a headline. I believe it was from Boxing Scene. I could be wrong, but I forgot where I read the headline.
Not to cut you off, did it say "Welcome back to boxing," but you're not a Hall of Famer?
No, it said Caleb Plant said, "I'm looking forward to proving the critics wrong." Well, I don't know if he knows this. He's a big favorite for this. The critics are picking you to win. So I don't know what you mean by that. But look, I think what he needs to do is have a great performance here. If Anthony is the old man they say he is, if Anthony's out of his prime, then Caleb Plant, if he really does want, well, no one really looking forward to it, he's saying, I want a rematch with Canelo. I want another crack at him. It needs to start with a phenomenal performance. He needs to have a flawless, phenomenal performance on Saturday night is what he needs to do. That'll be a good start for his journey moving forward. And after that, I mean, obviously, I want to see him against David Benavidez after this. That's what I want, right? So that's a fight I'm looking forward to. But let's talk about the main event of the pay-per-view that's going to be happening. So that's the undercard. But we're going to have Robert Helenius. He's going to be fighting Deontay Wilder. All right, Deontay Wilder's back. Rebecca, would this just be another routine right-hand knockout for Wilder? Or is there an upset brewing here? Because I don't know. I don't know how much is left of Wilder after that beating Fury gave him personally. Yeah, you're on mute.
Rebecca, hello.
Yes, Rebecca. There you go.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I muted myself so that you couldn't hear me before, and then I forgot that I did that. But to go back to what I was saying before, I feel like we've talked about this before, where when you have such a significant knockout, I feel like as a fighter, it's very traumatic, and some fighters just never recover from a knockout, especially something of that caliber of in such a grand stage. But this is definitely the weekend of comebacks for these fighters, and I'm really excited to see Wilder back in the ring. I personally want to see Wilder versus AJ. That's the fight I'm looking for, but the promoters are just not making this happen for us fight fans. So I'll take what I can get right now. I have Wilder by KO by 8th round. I think like some of the media workouts I was looking at, they look pretty sharp. I'm not saying that Helenius didn't look sharp, but I think we're going to see that iconic right hand. I was looking at some highlights of Helenius, and he's gotten put down with a straight right hand before. So especially because Helenius tends to drop his left hand a lot in his fights. He gets fatigued, and I think that he needs to keep that in mind, especially when he's fighting somebody like Wilder. But on the other hand, too, Wilder's been knocked out with that right hand, too. So I think it'll be a good fight. But I still think that Wilder will come out victorious. I just think that Helenius isn't going to be comfortable with the heat that Wilder's going to be putting on. Wilder is ready for redemption. He's ready to come back and prove himself that he's not ready to retire just yet.
Okay. Lyndon, how do you see this fight playing out? Wilder, Helenius.
I like this fight. I might be in the minority here, but I think it's going to be a good fight. I mean, they both, Wilder's obviously got that devastating power, but they've almost got similar styles where they like to tee off with the chin up in the air and anything's possible. I think Wilder gets the job done. I think Helenius might actually give him some problems early, might even hurt Wilder. But I think as the fight goes on, that big right hand's always there for Wilder, and I think he gets the job done in the 8th or 9th round.
Okay, all right. Marquise, how do you see it?
I see this. I don't think it's going to be competitive at all. I think we're going to be getting a reenactment of that Brazil fight all over again. I think this is in 3 rounds or less. And the thing that makes me say that is just talking to Helenius pretty much in various spots leading up to this fight. He's pretty much obviously he hasn't said anything tactical like what he's going to show different, but these guys have history. They're sparring partners, and we know what's going on with these guys. We know what these guys are going to bring in the ring for the most part. And if it wasn't Helenius, it would have been Konoski in this position getting smoked as well. So it's either or. I got this in less than 4 rounds for Wilder personally.
Man, okay. Christine, we know you're a huge Wilder fan, so give us a breakdown.
I kind of have a different take. So you know how when you're a kid and you have like this security blanket. So I think Helenius is Wilder's security blanket. I mean, they're dance partners. They know each other very well. Unfortunately or fortunately, boxing is a business. He knows what he has to do that night. So I don't believe that it's going to be a KO because who wants to get knocked out? I believe it's going to be a TKO. But Wilder's
Well, what are you trying to say, Christine? Like, he knows what he needs to do. Like, what are you trying to say?
He's got to roll, and you got to roll with it.
Christine, I got a question for you, actually. Not to divert the whole show here, but these guys are former sparring partners, and we know that going into this fight. Is there any possibility that they keep the same intensity that they had in sparring beforehand once the bell actually rings? Because more often than not with these fights with sparring partners and whatnot, i.e. if they had Jogba and whatnot, we don't get that. Do you see that playing out differently?
No. I do feel when the bell rings and someone's coming at you throwing punches. Yeah, absolutely. You're on it. We have seen, and I will not name what promotional company it is, but where someone is doing just fine, and all of a sudden, he goes down in the 3rd or 4th, and it's like, what happened?
That could be any of them.
What's going on here? So I think that he's a man. He's going to go in there and he's going to do what he's got to do, but he's got to remember what he's really there to do. And like I said, boxing is a business. We cannot forget that. Unfortunately,
I don't want to press you too much, but what are you trying to say, Christine? What are you saying?
Are you saying not the fix is in, but the outcome's predetermined here?
The outcome is Wilder, and I believe it'll be a TKO because who wants to be KO'd?
Okay.
Fair enough.
Malik's got 2.0, is that what you're saying? Yo, Joe Habib. I mean, you've questioned if Wilder has anything left after the beatdown, because that was a beating in his last fight.
Yes.
Is there anything left, Joe Habib? Do you see an upset, or it's just another routine fight for Wilder?
Helenius got momentum. Wilder's kind of gone in the other direction a little bit. You ask yourself, can someone come back from a vicious knockout? We questioned that with Pacquiao after he got knocked out by Marquez, but this is 2 really bad beatings in a row. Not 1, but 2. And then Wilder's like saying, I'm going to go back to basics. That's not really good, man, because before you needed to revamp your whole game, right? Changed everything. and now you're going back to basics. When you revamped your game, it was because you questioned your basics. So now you're going back to what you questioned beforehand. So the mentality is all over the place, as always with Wilder. And I like Wilder, but it's just hard to not question some of the things he says. And he's like I said, he's all over the place. I kind of do want to pull the trigger on Helenius, but it's a tall ask for him. It's a really tough ask for him. Is Wilder going to stop him though? I don't know. This fight may go the distance, believe it or not. I think Wilder will probably win, but this fight may go the distance. It may go the distance.
I'm surprised you didn't bring it up, so I'll kind of bring it up for you. You talked about he hurt his hand.
Yeah. Thank you for reminding me about that. So here's the thing: he broke his hand a couple times now, right? And we questioned when he went to the MX gloves because he broke his hand in the MX gloves when he fought Areola, and then he changed them. And because those horsehair gloves are a double-edged sword. Obviously, we talked about this as well off air. They're good puncher's gloves, but they're not good for protective purposes for your hands, right? A lot of guys wear those gloves and they break their hands because there's not much protection for the hand, right? So he broke the hand twice. So after time, like, you're gonna subconsciously probably not want to throw that hand with as much ferocity and authority than you normally did because you broke it a couple times. You know what I'm saying? And it may not have the effectiveness as it once did. So, and here's another thing too. It's almost like after a while, like with Mike Tyson, when he lost that aura of invincibility, guys started going around. Like Razor Ruddock had, he lost 2 decisions to Mike Tyson, whereas maybe beforehand he would have got Razor Ruddock out of there. So now that Wilder's kind of lost that aura of invincibility, maybe he's second guessing himself, questioning himself. Once again, like I said, the hand may not be the same. He's had injuries with his shoulder. He's had a lot of injury. Broke his forearm. He's had a lot of injuries over the years. He's getting older. Now he's supposed to be going back to basics. He may just win a decision here. He may play it safe and just win a decision here.
I actually think Wilder's going to win with a spectacular knockout. That's how I see it. I think he's going to land a big right hand. I'm not sure what round. It might be early, it might be mid rounds, but I think he's going to land something big. Helenius is there to get hit, and I think he's going to get a stoppage. But that's just me. You know what I mean? I would stay away from the MX gloves if I was Wilder personally. It hasn't worked out for him, but it's whatever. But with that said, I want to talk about the ESPN. First of all, let me just give a quick shout out to ESPN because they're kicking everybody's ass, in my opinion, at least in the United States. A lot of fights on ESPN, on ESPN Plus. The app is not that expensive. It's cheaper than the Zone. Okay, they've given us some great fights. Okay, and it's the biggest sports broadcaster in the United States. So they have a packed day on Saturday. So the afternoon card is going to be, at least here, it's going to be Devin Haney giving the rematch to Kambosos. Kambosos trying to get his straps back. It didn't go very well for him. He tried. I think he tried in that fight. It just didn't go well for him against a very crafty Devin Haney. Lyndon, is it going to be the same result, or do you see anything different from Kambosos?
Look, from an Australian point of view, we hope it's a different result. But look, it's going to be a massive day. It's been great here in Australia. I'm actually from Melbourne, so I'll be at the fight on Sunday Australian time. So I'm really looking forward to it. I missed the first one, ironically, because I was over in the States in New York where you guys are. So I missed it, but I'm really looking forward to seeing this one. I've been to a few of the media workouts and press conferences this week, and it's been a great build-up. George is really different this time because you would have remembered last time he wore the flush suits. He was very outspoken, very in the face of Haney. This time he's been very, very low-key. I think he's gone back to his roots. He's not dressing up. He's in low-key tracksuits. Very, very low-key this time is George. And I think whether it's enough, I don't know. I doubt it. I think Devin Haney, I think no matter what George makes as far as the adjustments in his game plan goes, I'm not quite sure it's enough to beat Devin, who's obviously going to be changing his game plan as well. And I just think Devin Haney has George covered on every single front, and he gets it done. I think it will be a lot closer as far as the effort goes. I mean, let's face it, Devin won pretty much every round last time big. I think George closes the gap this time, gets a little bit rough inside and makes it more of a fight. But I still think Devin wins the fight 8-4 and breaks Australians' hearts again. But look, it's going to be a massive event. Should be 15,000 at the Rod Laver Arena in Melbourne. It's going to be huge. Got the Maloney brothers on the undercard, which I'm really looking forward to as well. We've got Susie Ramadan against Shanika Johnson in the IBF Super Bantamweight title fight. So it's going to be a great day for boxing here. We actually have to pay, I think, $60 to watch it on pay-per-view. You guys obviously get it for free over there. But well worth the money. Yeah, it's well worth the money. But look, that's what we do down here in Australia. We have to pay big money for our fights. But can't wait to be there at ringside on Sunday afternoon our time.
Well, there you go, man. You guys pay the real money too. Not like the UK, they complain for paying $10.
Well, it's 60 Australian is worth. It's probably only about sort of 45 to 50 American dollars, but still $60 is $60.
60.
Man. Christine, same result or different outcome here?
I think that Haney wins, but I think he's going to win differently. I believe it's going to be a TKO. I do. I thought he looked fabulous the last fight. He always looks good, but last time he looked really fabulous, and I believe that it's going to be a TKO this time. He's going to get him at that body.
Interesting. Okay, babe, same result, different outcome.
I thought I was going to be the only one to say it, but I'm picking Haney by stoppage as well later in the fight because I think he'll be a little more aggressive. And I think Kambosos will be a little more aggressive. And I think because of those two things, he may walk into something. Haney got a very underrated left hook. He's got a very good left hook. That's his kind of money punch. He can get guys out of there with that. And Christine also mentioned the body work, which is very underrated as well. I think Haney can be a puncher when he wants to be. It's just that he's more of a conservative guy. But I think there's a lot more wrinkles to Devin Haney that we haven't seen yet. He's shown glimpses of it in certain fights, but for the most part, his nature is to be a little bit more reserved in the ring, more comprehensive. But I think this time, he's got the confidence in his favor. He's got the titles. He's going in as the champion. And I think he's going to have something to prove here. And I think he's going to want to make a statement this time around, whereas the first time around, he just wanted to make sure he got a secure win. He wanted to become undisputed. Now he's gonna this is gonna be more of a showcase type performance, I think.
Okay, all right. Before I go to Rebecca, every Devin Haney fight, people are saying Devin Haney is gonna get a stoppage. Like this has been happening for the last 5 fights.
4 years, guys.
Like he couldn't stop. He couldn't stop. An old Gamboa has been dropped 15 times, and he couldn't stop. Linares was been knocked out cold. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying. But Rebecca, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Beep, real quick.
To be fair, this is the first time I've ever picked him by stoppage, so I'm just being honest.
Okay.
To be fair,
Rebecca, do you see a stoppage or an upset, or what do you see?
Well, I do see Haney winning. I'm not sure about the stoppage, but I mean, it's boxing, so there's a first for everything. I think that it would make things a little more interesting, especially for Haney. I think now he's a little more comfortable. He's been in the ring once before with Kambosos, and we've seen from the last time that Kambosos, when fighting Haney, was visibly hurt, a little bit broken down. So I think for Haney, in order to get the stoppage, he needs to add more like 3 to 5 punch combinations. He needs to change his angles. He needs to just keep breaking down Kambosos. And I think that he's got him figured out. And I don't think, unless Kambosos really like beats Haney to the punches and he walks Haney down consistently, I just don't see Haney giving him those opportunities. And I think Haney's going to come out on top. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a stoppage. But I don't know. I feel like it can kind of go either way. Either Haney's like, I already have this. I don't need to prove that I need a stoppage to, prove to people I'm just 23 years old, I'm the champ. But at the same time, too, it would be something nice to add to the resume and to build him forward as a fighter.
David Haney walked up to Linares and asked him, who hits harder, me or Loma? And he looked at him and he said, well, Loma stopped me, so that's what he told him. You know what I mean? But Marquise, how do you see this one?
It was the back.
Guys, when I was on here last time with you guys, I think it was me in Box Talk. I think I remember mentioning a great line of sleepy time. So there was a stoppage in the first fight. It was me in the 8th round falling asleep on it. I think we get the same thing on this fight as well, to be honest with you. I think this is a walkout bout, and Haney wins wide on points. I'm watching this card for the Maloney's personally. I have zero interest in this repeat. This feels like a contractual obligation more than anything else, and they can't hide.
Sure.
Yeah.
I am in the camp. I do believe that Kambosos is going to do better in this fight. And all he needs to do better, he needs to pick up, he needs to apply more pressure on Haney and throw more volume. And he's going to have to take some risk. And I get, some people saying he might knock out Kambosos. He's going to take more risk, therefore you get hit more. But I never seen Haney go that extra gear to stop anybody. I just haven't seen that. If anything, I think Haney will get even more.
The last one I seen work with the stoppage. Sorry to cut you off. The last one I saw with the stoppage that you really went for it, I think we all saw it, was Antonio Moran. But how long ago was that?
Yeah, I mean, and I just don't think Moran's at the level of a Kambosos, to be honest with you. So
not at all.
I think it's just another routine fight. I think somewhere after the 4th, 5th round, Haney's going to say to himself, I don't even keep taking these risks, and he's going to box him. He's going to use his feet. He's going to circle around him. He's going to churn him, and I think that's what's going to happen, to be honest. But we'll see. I'll be very, very surprised if Haney gets a stoppage.
Have we seen Centeno with Kambosos? I haven't seen any pictures or anything. Is he?
I actually don't know. Where is he at? Is he still in Florida or is he in Australia?
Yeah, I'm curious because I haven't seen him.
Kambosos
with Centeno. His coach was his
I think is he from? I think he's got a Cuban coach now. I think.
Wow, I didn't even.
Yeah,
based in Sydney.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because Haney kind of learned his craft through the Cuban style, so there's that. So
yeah, that is interesting.
Very interesting. Okay. But I will say this, though. I do like this Kambosos more. This is the Kambosos I knew before the Teofimo fight. I don't know who he was. He was living high. And God bless him. He was living the life.
War, deception.
Hey, I would too.
Yeah, that's right.
I was in the dark.
Hey, well, he's back in the dark now, so it is what it is. Speaking of ESPN, earlier that day, we're going to have the big women's card from England, Mayer versus Baumgardner. We're going to start with that one. Christine, I'm going to start with you. I know you've worked with Michaela before, so there might be a little bit of a bias there, maybe, you know what I mean? But how do you see it?
I have not, I've been in camp with her. Kate Caroma and Coach Al, they are the men. She's also worked a little bit with Coach Red from B&B, but she's winning. She's going to win. Like this girl has so many dimensions. We have seen everything. We've seen her boxing. We've seen her bang. We've seen her cool, calm, collective demeanor. Yeah, today it got a little heated, and she's human. But she is sick and tired of Alicia's mouth, and she's going to do whatever she needs to do. To me, Alicia is not on her level. She is not at her caliber. She won against Harper. Boxing is lucky punches, and that's what landed. Kudos to her. But this is a whole different level, honey. And Michaela is definitely winning that fight, 100%.
Antonio Luna says team Baumgardner. I want to ask you this, Christine, and it's something that Alicia has alluded to in a lot of and it's one of the things that irritated, Mayer. He got under her skin, told her to stop talking about it.
Yeah.
She keeps saying, look, I wasn't privileged. I didn't have the money to go to these tournaments, et cetera, et cetera. What is it? Is Alicia leaving anything out? Did she really not participate in these tournaments because she didn't have money? Like, what's the deal?
That is no excuse. she didn't get there. She didn't fight who she had to fight. She didn't get those wins. She didn't go through the steps that Michaela has gone through. I personally, as a coach, have been literally 19 deep in a hotel room going to nationals because we can't afford to go, or some other athletes can't afford to go. So everybody pays their way, and we share one hotel room. Like, there is no excuse. Clarissa Shields, did she come for money? She made it to all the nationals. She made it to the Olympics twice. Like, that is ludicrous. And I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I have never, ever in my life heard of Alicia Baumgardner in the amateurs. And I have been to all the nationals, all the local, all the state, and all the national tournaments and international. And I have never heard her name until she went pro. So whatever she's talking about and talking about Michaela being privileged, her life, she needs to write a book, because her life, and I'll only repeat what she has said on Twitter of her mom being an alcoholic, her dad being a single dad, trying to take care of she and her sisters. But there's so much more to that. And she's been through it, you know, and that really, I know that bothered Michaela. It bothered me, you know, because she's just talking out of the side of her neck. You know, she has no clue.
So before I move on, a lot of people are interpreting like her losing her cool, Baumgardner's in her head. Is she in her head, in your opinion?
She's not new to this. She's not new to this. Words,
Okay.
They're nothing. She's been on the big stages, many, all over. She's not new to this.
Okay. All right. Marquise, how do you see this fight, and do you think, you know, the mind games are going to be a factor at all?
Not really, but it's fun to hear because it's selling this fight, and it had me a lot more interested in this fight than, almost being realistic with you guys, probably anything else that's taking place this weekend. And Karen jokes and all, whatever have you, but it's all funny and entertainment. Once the bell rings, people are getting punched in the face. I think we're getting a different fight once the bell rings. I think in the gang over at NY Fights has talked me into this. I think this is going to be a 20-minute stinker. So I'm trying to get off that fence with this. Only people are thinking that I don't see Mayer being this force that's going to press like she did in the Hamadouche fight, because that wasn't the right way to do it. And I don't see Baumgardner having the reach that, because she doesn't have the reach to touch Mayer. So I just don't think she's going to be able to actually touch her at all. She's not going to stand stationary like Terry Harper, who's still standing in that ring right now. So I just think it's going to be just Mayer by a wide points decision.
Okay. All right. Babe, how do you see this fight? Do you think there's a mind game factor here?
I don't think McKay is going to be rattled at all. I think, to be honest with you, I don't really look like, doesn't seem to me like she's frustrated or upset at all. I mean, she's just going back and forth. I think it's banter on both sides. And I agree with Christine. And correct me if I'm wrong, Christine, too. Like, if you're really good enough, sometimes you get sponsored and people take care of you. If you're that blue chipper, if you're like Mayer. They saw something in Mayer. That's why she got where she was. I mean, she is a very, very well-schooled amateur fighter. And with respect to Baumgardner, you know, she has to prove in this fight, was she more than just a one-hit wonder? I think that Mikaya definitely has gotten better. She's shown different wrinkles to her game. She's shown versatility. I loved how she fought extremely well against Jessica Hahn on the inside, which was something I've seen her doing. She showed that she could be tough and be gritty, not only just be that boxer from the outside, but she showed a little bit of toughness there. Baumgardner, once again, seems like that, you know, another fighter who fights in spurts, whereas you know, Mayer is more consistent with her work. Like I said, she has more tools in the toolbox. I think this is going to be a rout. I think it's going to be a rout. I could see this maybe 8-2 on the cards. You know, I just think that you know, I'm going to use an old saying that my partner Eric Lauder always says. You know, Mayer's just got more ways to win. Baumgardner's only got one way to win. She's got to land that one punch.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to play the percentages here. I'm going to pick the young lady who has more ways to win, and that's going to be Mayer, in my opinion.
Okay, all right. Lyndon, how do you see this fight playing out?
Yeah, look, I 100% agree with BP. I think Michaela Has got so many more strings to her bow. I think she wins quite comfortably. I haven't been across all the antics in the build up to the fight. Some of the comments here with what's been said between the two, but I just think when it comes down, we see that in the build up of all these fights. I think when I actually get in the ring, I think Michaela has so many more tools and just a more complete fighter. And I think she exposes Alicia a little bit and wins it quite comfortably. And I agree with Joe, 8 rounds to 2.
Okay. All right. Rebecca, how do you see this one?
So I'm so happy that Christine went first, and she brought up the point of 19 fighters in a room finding any way possible to get to tournaments. Because one thing that I learned during my USA boxing seminar with Jackie Atkins, who's the president of the New Jersey State, is she was saying that there are so many programs for people that can't afford to go to these tournaments. These tournaments are really expensive, but there are so many resources that the states and that USA Boxing supply, because we want to find these new up and coming fighters to be on the team. And, you know, we have so many helping hands. And so to just put out that excuse in the sob story, it's corny to people that are in the circuit, and they know there are a lot of people that I know from the PAL system that literally were on food stamps, free lunch, everything. And they were traveling the country at 15, 16 years old. So it's BS, honestly. And I find it really corny to kind of throw that's like a low blow. But with that being said, I think Mayer wins by decision. Originally, I kind of wanted to like sit out of a comment of that because I do think that it's going to be a phenomenal fight. I'm hyped for the fight. I feel like I'm about to get in the ring just of like all the back and forth that's been between those two. And it's been very entertaining to see them talk. But I think it comes down to like what everyone's been kind of grabbing at is that Michaela Mayer, she's a sharp puncher. She has good footwork. She has excellent ring IQ. And Baumgardner, at the end of the day, just has her power. And I think when you go against someone like Mayer, who has the reach extension and the height advantage, she's not going to let Baumgardner get inside. And I find it hysterical for the people that are super Baumgardner fans. Not to say she's a phenomenal fighter. I don't want to sound like I'm dissing her at all. But the people that are pointing out her arms. Oh, look at her arms. Her arms are so muscular. Okay, like have you seen bodybuilders and they get their ass handed to them by lightweight fighters? So don't be bringing how someone's body looks into it, because that really is such a small piece to the bigger picture. So I think Mayer by decision.
And I just want to make a comment. So to Rebecca's point too about the tournament. So the tournaments themselves are not expensive. It's like, you pay $20-something to get in. It's the hotel, but are you going to stay at the Hyatt or are you going to stay at Motel 6? I mean, you do what you got to do, and split foods. It's the travel that's expensive. Split the rides, split the sandwiches, whatever. So yeah, that's just.
You got to hit the buffets, all right, Christine? You got to hit the buffets. Absolutely. Golden Corral.
Yeah, Golden Corral, honey. Oof. Absolutely.
Eating Corral during camp.
That meatloaf is still waiting for you guys there at Golden Corral. No thanks.
No, but look, for me, I'm not above trash talk or nothing like that. Obviously, I was a big Ricardo Mayorga fan, for example, but in this case, like it has gotten like, I'm not a fan of trash talk when it starts getting like, when it's no longer about the boxing and it starts getting personal. Yeah. Because now it's not revolving around the fight anymore. It's like a personal animosity. And like, I don't see a real history with these two girls, like for it to be that way, but I think Baumgardner has crossed the line, and I think she's doing it. It's a strategy. And for me, whenever a fighter tries to go too far, like I just brought up an example, Mayorga, what was Mayorga trying to do? He was trying to get, the more skilled fighter, a De La Hoya, Trinidad, out of their game. Like whenever a fighter tries to get someone out of their game, well, that's because they don't think they could win unless they get them out of their game. And I think she's overcompensating a little bit. And as long as Michaela just stays composed and just knows that she's going to do what she needs to do, she should be fine. You know what I mean? But I've seen stranger things. If it does get to her, right? If it does get in her head, who knows what could happen, right? But I got Mayer, though. I got Mayer by white decision. Maybe even a stoppage, actually. I think it's more likely she stops Baumgardner than Haney stopping Kambosos, to be honest with you.
Can I just make a comment real quick, Lisa,
Yeah.
about your comment? So you said, when people are trash talking like that, they're trying to get the other person out of their game. Okay, is it that, or is it this is really emotional and embedded in Alicia? She is very emotional, and she literally, you can see the hate and the disdain that she has for Mayor. Maybe because she felt she was privileged and she got things handed to her, or whatever. I believe it's real, and that will take someone off their game. You get in there with all that emotion, and you're gonna not be able to focus and do whatever you need to do, whatever your corner tells you to do, because you're so emotional. You go in there, you try to knock somebody's head off, and you get caught.
I'm going to be honest with you. It sounds like she's jealous of her. To be perfectly honest with you, she's showing a little. She's showing some envy here, and I don't want to talk bad about her because I like both women, but she sounds very jealous.
Yeah, I mean, hey, Lyndon, did you ever have anyone, when you were boxing that you didn't like, that you had to like keep your composure when you went in the ring with them or anything like that?
No, not really. I always tried to keep it professional, and it's just an opponent. And yeah, I mean, I think some fighters need that type of tension or whatever it might be to maybe build them up a little bit to get themselves up for the fight. But I think the elite fighters, they don't need to do that. They just concentrate on what they've got to do. In this case, look, both girls have probably done it for different reasons. Maybe there is genuine spite there. Who knows? But look, end of the day, when the bell rings, it's just two women in there with the gloves on, and they get it on. I think all that gets forgotten pretty quickly.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, hopefully, I just hope after it's done, and that's that, But we'll see what happens with that. The main event of that evening is a fight I've been really looking forward to. Right? Well, actually, I'm sorry, Rebecca. Did you go, Rebecca? You did, right?
She did.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Well, we're going to start with you, Rebecca, but Claressa Shields against Savannah Marshall. How do you see this fight playing out?
I have Shields by decision. I feel like I might have a bias being a USA girl, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of people have been bringing up the past of, 10 years ago where Savannah Marshall beat Claressa Shields, where amateurs are completely different than pros, first of all. Second of all, that was 10 plus years ago. And also some people would argue that Claressa Shields didn't lose that fight. So it kind of depends on who you're talking to. I think that this is a classic example of styles make fights, and this is a fight that fans have been wanting to see for a while now. It's great not only for women's boxing, but boxing in general. You have Marshall, who has serious power, and as does Shields, but I think that Shields has a very high ring IQ, just like Mayer. She has fast hands, and I think that her pressure is going to be really important in this fight. Both fighters are extremely smart fighters, but I just think that Shields has to really pump on the gas, especially since she's not going to be in her own backyard. I think that she needs to prove to the judges that she is the clear winner if she wants to win by decision. I think it's always kind of tricky when you're in someone else's turf, and if it is as close as some people think it's going to be, it could go the other way, even if other people think otherwise, just because it is on Marshall's turf. So I do think Claressa Shields will take home the win, but she has to win clearly for that to happen. Okay.
All right. Lyndon, we'll go to you. How do you see this fight playing out, brother?
Oh, I really like this fight. Looking forward to it. And I agree with Rebecca. I don't think you can really take in the fact that Marshall beat Shields, 10 years ago? I mean, it's an amateur sport, and they are completely different sports. I know it's still boxing, but the emphasis is on different things, scoring in the amateurs, where the pros is more the endurance, heart, conditioning, strategy, all that sort of stuff. So, look, I had to pick one of them. I'm actually going to go with Marshall. I think that Shields will come out smoking. There's no doubt about that. She really wants to put it on Marshall, and I think she'll be aggressive. I think, though, even though she's very aggressive, I don't think she's a massive puncher, and I think that really falls into the hands of Marshall. I think if she withstands the first 2 or 3 rounds of that heat that Shields is going to bring, I really think she can settle into a game plan, settle into the groove, and outbox Shields. I know Marshall is a big puncher as well. I think it's 10 knockouts in 12 wins. But I think she puts that aside and outboxes Shields a little bit and uses her ring smarts a little bit. more than probably some of her other fights, and I think she wins that fight 6-4.
Okay. All right. Joe Habib, Marshall versus Shields.
It's funny. It's funny when people talk about amateurs, right? Because Henry Tillman beat Mike Tyson twice in the amateurs. He stopped him from going.
How'd that work out for him?
And he got knocked out in one round when they. It was crazy. The thing I love about Shields is her footwork and her foot speed. I love that ambush in and out style that she has. She can go in there and she just fires off combinations. She runs her combinations so quick and she's out of there. So it's really hard to pin her down, right? She's such a great all-around fighter, but the big thing is her footwork. And because of that, she doesn't get hit a lot, right? She's got great defense. I think her defense is what really stands out for me, right? And that Christina Hammer fight, I actually thought Christina Hammer was going to win that fight. And she just took her to school. And another thing too is just she's not the biggest punch in the world, but she's very physically strong. You could see even when she goes inside how she can knock her opponent off balance. She's very gritty and tough, and she just gives you that little shoulder bump, and she'll give you that bump just to create that little bit of space so she can run a combination, and she just resets and gets back out of there. I think she's just going to outmaneuver Marshall in this fight. And as much as I like Marshall too, I like both women a lot. I love watching Marshall fight as well. She keeps me at the edge of my seat. But I think what's going to win this fight is the speed and footwork of Shields. Like I said, I think she's going to outmaneuver Marshall, and she's going to win a decision. Hopefully this fight's competitive. I could see, Shields pulling away and maybe in the second half of the fight, it being a rout, but I hope I'm wrong.
All right. Marquise, how do you see this one?
I see this fight playing out two different ways, guys. The one way I think it's going to play out is what we guys were mentioning before, where you guys think Shields will win by decision. But the one thing that keeps me on the fence on that is that usually when I've seen everybody and their great grandma think it's Shields by decision, odds makers, Shields by decision, sports books, Shields by decision. You know what happens? A draw or Savannah Marshall's going to win. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen here. Mainly for the simple reason that last time I checked, we started the show here, most sports books, the draw is like 10 or 11-1. That's pretty low. Those are the same odds you could have got for Sean Porter beating Terrence Crawford. So it's not really high. And pretty much usually when they see the money going that way, there's some sort of shenanigans afoot. So I'm actually expecting a draw, but I really do think Marshall's going to win somehow or another.
Okay. All right. Christine. How do you see it?
I didn't think about this until now, until Marquise said draw. I can so see that. First of all,
I'm not a draw guy, but this screams it.
I hate draws.
What's with these draws?
But now that I'm thinking about it, okay, so Marshall, she obviously her knockout ratio is way higher than Shields. We're fighting in Marshall's backyard. I believe that Shields has this dog, and she is going to use her footwork and her pressure and everything to get to Marshall. Marshall is longer; she's going to box around her. But you know what? I can see a draw. I really can. I am going to say that I want Clarissa to get her hand raised. But now that he said that, there's a lot of factors that make me believe that possibly it could be a draw as well. I mean, let's have a number 2. Let's have a number 3. They're making a lot of money over there.
Yes.
I mean,
you mentioned it's a business. This is how business starts.
It's a business.
If it's a draw, who keeps the queen belt at the WBC man?
Hopefully, Marshall, they can throw shit in the trash.
You have to cut it in half. You have to cut it in half, brother.
Yeah, you can't cut the
trash
queen in half.
Throw it in the trash. Pawn it. Trash. No one wants that.
Hey, but really quick, Nando Llamas, I appreciate it. He says, saludos, everyone. Please jab the like option. Make sure you guys hit the like button. You're tuning to the 102nd edition of the RoundTable 2-year anniversary. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Shout out to the chat. Hit the like, by the way.
Congrats. But, D, I got a question for you, man.
Sure.
So you started this 2 years ago during this pandemic. My research, that was around the same time Ruben Villa was facing Emmanuel Navarrete. So I got to ask you a serious question here. What really got you guys started in this program?
This one was actually under the Leave It in the Ring network, and it was the very first show was actually Teofimo Lopez against Loma. We were talking about that fight.
Okay.
Yeah, it's somewhere around there. But
All right.
so check this out, okay? I was pretty confident about Marshall winning this fight a couple weeks ago, and then the queen that passed away. And then I heard interviews of her saying she's been killing herself to make the weight, and so she had to have another camp or another weight camp, whatever you want to call it, to lose that weight again. So I don't know how that's going to affect her. Who knows? It might not be a factor at all. Who knows? But I've kind of switched my stance. I think I'm going to go with Shields by a very close decision. Right? Very close decision. I think it's going to be a lot tougher for Shields than people think. Savannah can punch. Okay, that power is real, and I think Shields is going to feel it. And I think Shields is going to – I still feel she's going to be resorted to one punch at a time, 1-2 at the most. She's not going to be throwing combinations against Savannah Marshall, because that's just asking to get caught with something. So that's how I personally see the fight. I just wouldn't be shocked if Marshall pulls this off. Like, I just wouldn't. And I think people are counting her out, and it's amazing to me. And I know it's hard to envision someone like Shield that's been as dominant as her losing, but it could happen. You know what I mean? I think this is something that could genuinely happen, all right? Another thing, Shields, okay? For some reason, people don't think she's tough. I don't know why, right? Shields went to MMA, all right? It's not her sport. All right. And she was in every possible, like her opponent had her in every dominant position on the ground. And she somehow, it wasn't through technique. It wasn't because she knew better jiu-jitsu than her. By sheer will, she got out of these positions and then got her in a headlock and just started pounding her head in and won that way. Right. Like, that was all dog. Like that was all like will. And like so. We haven't seen her having to use that in boxing yet, right? So maybe Savannah will bring that out of her in this fight, you know. So I just want to let people know that, all right? Mario Munguia, how's it going, brother?
Orale. What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing tonight?
Diesel, I have a question though, real quick. I'm sorry. You said that that Marshall was talking about. She was killing herself to make weight and this and that. That is like a no 101. So was it strategy or was it real? You don't talk about that in public. I don't believe that was true. I believe that's part of the strategy.
Maybe it's the word deception in the words of a Kambosos.
Art of war, deception.
Absolutely. I guarantee it. I'm sorry, Mario. I just had to talk about that. Hello.
So is that what you're saying? It's deception?
Yeah. There's no way that someone of her caliber is going to be on a public a stage talking about that or on an interview. I'm killing myself to make.
That's a fair point.
No.
Make them believe.
We're good.
All right, so Mario, I'm going to shoot this really quick to you. Just before I get to Marshall Shields for you, just give me your picks really quick. Plant Durrell.
Plant.
Okay. Kambosos Haney.
Haney.
Wilder Helenius.
Wilder.
How?
He stops
Decision
him.
knockout. Okay.
He stops him.
All right. Stops him. Okay. All right. Mayer versus Baumgardner.
Baumgardner.
All right, talk to us.
Ooh,
So
there we go.
Why you got Baumgardner in this fight?
Listen, I'm gonna just be 100% honest, and I got to interview her early on in her career. I followed her from the team that I used to be with. They were in her backyard, so I got to see her grow. I got to see her get better. Like it's so much better when you get to see these guys grow. That's why the undercards are so important, and televising them and making them count, because ultimately we have to care about them. And I care about Alicia Baumgardner. I care whether or not she wins or loses. And I'll tell you, I don't care much about anybody winning or losing these days, and it tends to be the people that, to quote B, offer some sort of nostalgia, you know what I mean? And I see in Alicia a dog that's always been there, but she also checks off so many other boxes for me. It's a 50-50 fight. I really believe so. I don't blame anyone for picking the other way. But for me, I'm just going to be honest. It's nostalgia and bias, 100%.
Do you think she's in Mayer's head? Do you think she's in her head?
No, I don't. I think that they've done a really good job of controlling the narrative of the promotion. And look, what these what these fighters got the chance to see is what a promotion in women's fighting looks like when it's done right at the highest level. And they get to benefit off of that and know what kind of caliber show this can be. If this happens before that fight, I'm not saying that it's a dud, or I'm not saying nobody thinks it's big, but I don't think people can recognize the magnitude of what these kinds of fights can bring. Women's boxing has the ability to draw. It has the ability to make people care. And these fights, having the best fight each other, is how you make people care. And by the way, the same goes for men's boxing.
Okay. All right. So we're just talking about, the main event, Marshall versus Shields. Who do you have in that fight?
I'm going to pick Shields. I mean, at this point, I still cannot look at her in any other way than the most dominant fighter, not just in her weight class, not just in multiple weight classes, but perhaps in all of women's boxing in the history of the sport. What she was able to do at the amateur division and what she's been able to do at the professional division. I mean, look, if LeBron James was doing this, right? If Michael Jordan was as successful at baseball as Clarissa Shields was at MMA, we'd be talking completely different about his baseball career. What she was able to do, like, people don't understand, because so many commercial fans, they look at boxing and they look at MMA and they just mangle them together. There's very little correlation. There's about as much correlation between boxing and MMA as there is between volleyball and basketball. Is it played on a court? Is there a net and a ball? 100%. But that's where the correlation's in. And that's the same thing with boxing and MMA. Her defeat in MMA, to me, has absolutely zero to do with her legacy, has absolutely zero to do with how I see her heading into what has to be perceived as the biggest moment in her career. And so I'm just going to keep picking. I'm going to keep picking her the way that I always pick Jordan, the way that I always pick Tom Brady, the way that I always pick what I recognize and perceive to be the greatest performer, athlete, whatever, in that respective arena. That's how I see her. She's the GOAT.
I mean, Brady did lose 3 Super Bowls, so I mean, it's possible.
Yeah, there is that.
Still probably the greatest of our generation.
And the Pistons, they had Jordan stoppers. Maybe Marshall's the.
There you go, and that's why we watch, right?
Go ahead, Pete.
This fight, the odds makers have this fight dead even. So when are you ever going to get like dead even odds on Clarissa? Because a lot of people are picking.
That's a
Shields.
Great point.
So if you do like Shields, this is the time to bet on her, because you're never going to get Shields even money probably ever again.
If Shields wins this fight, I don't know. I don't see anyone that could beat her.
Even Crawford is a slight favorite over Spence. Like, this is I can't remember the last time we had a dead even fight on the odds.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask a question to the panel, and it goes into the whole trash talk, getting in the head. Like, Christine, I'll start with you. Like, do you remember a fight that you could think of where a fighter got another fighter's head? Or is this the whole getting in someone's head overrated?
No, I mean, I think it can happen. But I don't think it happens during press conferences. I think it happens over the time of the whole camp and everything else, like everything that leads up to that. I don't think it happens right there, like, bing, oh my God, you're in my head,
So there's no magic words you could say at a press conference.
Yeah, they're either in your head the whole time or they're not. It doesn't just happen.
Okay.
I wish you would have. I could have thought about this a little longer, but I can't think of one that sticks out. But yeah, it doesn't just happen like that.
Okay, so it does happen. Marquise, is it like an overrated thing in your opinion? Can you think of a fight where this happened?
Not of recent memory. I just think it's just trying to sell tickets at this point, because at this point it kind of is what it is. We're just trying to push these fights along and just get the word out. And pretty much at this point, no one's really a big fan of, I just want to have the best fight possible and may the best man or woman win. We need mama jokes or something. So that's where all this stuff comes from. So I get it.
So I guess what we're getting at is, and I'll ask you, Beep, do you think it's become like a WWE thing now, like a wrestling thing with the trash talk at the press conferences at this point?
Not at all. It's
Joe, I don't like you and you don't like me. Let's fight.
It's not overrated at all, because let's go back and look at Felix Trinidad versus Bernard Hopkins. When he took that Puerto Rican flag and threw it on the ground, you're not going to tell me that Felix Trinidad didn't want to do something right then and there.
Yeah.
Right? Tyson Fury, Vladimir Klitschko, he got in his head. You could see Klitschko's face getting red at those press conferences. You know what I mean? Even Amir Khan, Danny Garcia's dad, Angel Garcia, he got in Amir Khan's head, and Amir Khan he admitted
that was ugly too.
The dad got in my head, and he was saying some really bad things too, and I didn't really. It was horrible.
But do you
I don't think it's overrated at all.
Do you mean with fear or with anger and emotion?
It could be anything. I mean,
anything, man. Psychological warfare. Make them believe.
Whatever throws them off the game plan, I guess, right?
No, frustrations, fear,
because I really don't think that there are many that have fear. I mean, they're boxers. This is what they do. Maybe emotion and jabbing at the family or the whatever. Yes. Anger.
Yeah, Christine, not for nothing. I thought the fear was death.
Fear, no.
Don't you think it's a controlled fear though, Christine? You don't think the fear is there, but it's just controlled?
Well, there's the butterflies, there's the nervousness, yes, but the fear. I mean, I don't think so. Maybe the fear of losing, but not a fear of the person.
It's fear though. It's still fear though, right?
Yeah. I wasn't sure exactly what he was speaking of, like the fear or the emotional anger or whatever,
Then how do you see this whole mind games thing? Is it overrated to you? Is it a real thing?
Oh, look, I think it is overrated to some extent. I think, look, there's the mix between playing it up for the cameras. I mean, at the end of the day, they're trying to promote the fight and the hype it up. I must admit, I'm a little bit over the whole when they face off and they've got to be talking to each other and there's the old push, whatever it might be. I'm a little bit over that. I know the fans love it, but I think the real boxing fans and boxers themselves sort of see through that sort of thing. But yeah, look, I think these guys, they're obviously elite professional athletes, boxers. I think, as I said, they go through the motions, but these guys, they believe in themselves. They all the work and that these guys put in to their camps. I think all that is just smoke and mirrors. I agree with Christine when she said, about the fear factor. I don't think it's the fear of the opponent. I think it'd be very rare for an opponent to be legitimately afraid of the guy they're fighting. I think they do get fear of, letting people down, letting themselves down, of course. There's the bright lights, there's the pressure. But look, I think when the first bell rings, all that just goes out the window. I really do. I think it's tunnel vision and away they go. The one example I can probably think of just recently, and it's probably hard being on the spot as far as fighters getting in each other's heads, but I actually think when George Kambosos fought Teofimo Lopez, I really think Kambosos got in Lopez's head. Not because Kambosos was a special fighter and this great fighter out there, but I think the fact that he really put Lopez on the back foot because Kambosos, he was so in his face, he was so brash, and you could see Lopez thinking, who the hell is this guy? He's totally unheard of, basically. And he was in his face, he didn't take a backward step, and you could almost see Lopez's face thinking, who is this guy? And I just think Lopez changed his whole outlook on the fight and the game plan against Kambosos. I think he went out there, instead of trying to fight his normal fight, which would have been good enough to beat Kambosos, I mean, if we're honest. But I think he went out of there, he tried to take Kambosos out. I think he just fought a completely different way to what he would normally fight. And I think Kambosos, that really played into his hands, and obviously we saw what happened there. So, but as I said, I don't think it's a big factor for these elite fighters. I think they just get on with the job. They do the work in camp. They get in there, the bell rings, and they just go. So I think all that other stuff's very overrated.
All right. Rebecca, what do you think about the mind games in boxing and the fighters getting? Is it overrated to you, or what do you think about it?
Well, it's funny you say that because for me, I was a marketing major in college. And so every time I see something, whether it's an ad or a face-off, my marketing brain just goes on and I'm like, that was some A1 marketing, that trash. I mean, you just, at the end of the day, like it's been brought up, boxing is a business. As much as we don't want to believe it, as much as we want to believe that boxing is not corrupt and it's all roses and clean, it's not. And it's a business. So, I think every time, like I said, like for example, the Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia tweets where they're like, done, and everyone's going crazy over it. I just sat so deadpan, like their marketing team did a fantastic job with that. It's just getting people talking, just to get people getting their names out there to market themselves. But I think that trash talk or getting into people's heads, I think that has worked. For example, with Kambosos Lopez, I think that was a great example. But one person I think that has shown time and time again that he lets emotions get the better of him in the ring is Anthony Joshua. I think that he's a very emotional fighter. And I think that the moment, I think as a fighter, when you see somebody and you see that you've broken their will, it just takes it to the next level. And I think that for like Andy Ruiz in the first fight, he saw that he had Joshua in this very emotional state and he capitalized on that. And that's something that I think we saw again with Joshua with Usyk. And so that's one example of how I think not even just trash talk, but just the body language and like dealing with tests inside the ring, I think really define a fighter.
Okay, absolutely. I don't know if this was Mind Games or not, but I remember seeing film. Look, I'm not going to say it was fear or something like that. You call it whatever it is. You put Vernon Forrest and Mayorga side by side on paper. Ain't nobody picking Mayorga to beat him, right? Like it just I don't see it, right? But he did, and I think it did something to Forrest when Mayorga was telling him, "Here, hit me," and he would hit him, and Mayorga wouldn't go anywhere. Like it did something to him. Whatever it was, it messed with his head. Right. So I do think it is possible for fighters to get another fighter's head. And that's one of that is one matchup that I'll never understand. But for whatever reason, Mayorga he got his head. That's the best explanation I got as to why he beat Vernon Forrest. But that's that. Go ahead, Tabib.
Let me ask you this, because Haplotype made a great point, and I was thinking this too. You don't think like some of the guys Mike Tyson fought like had fair, like when Frank Bruno the first time he fought Mike Tyson when he was going into the ring, he made the sign of the cross like 50 times. He's going into the ring, and he kept making the sign of it. You could just see it, man. I don't know.
I think Spinks. I don't know what else you could call it. He looked horrified.
Spinks admitted. He said this was Spinks' explanation before the fight. When they asked him, "Are you concerned? Are you intimidated? Are you fearful?" And he goes, "Yeah, I think I'm afraid, but that fear is going to make me be alert. It's going to make me be aware in there, So he admitted it.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. But Prime Tyson was something else, though. I'll just say that.
Yeah. I think the fear of those guys back then with Tyson was more of Don King bouncing your check and you still getting knocked up by Tyson on the back end. I think that was the fear, not anything else.
I saw a Mercer interview, like Ray Mercer, like he said, like when he fought his idol, Larry Holmes, he got in his head. Like Larry Holmes was looking at the camera, like saying, "Hey, check this out!" Like while the guy's throwing punches at him, and he said he got in my head. At that point, I just went with him. Like I stopped trying to win, and I just coasted after that, like because he got in my head. Like it is what it is.
You know what he was saying to him during the fight? He's like, "I'm not Tommy Morrison." Hilarious.
Well, no, he wasn't. You know what I mean?
But did Larry Holmes drop kick him off the limo afterwards? That's the important question here.
That is. Mario, any examples you got?
Yeah, listen, I think, is it important? Of course, trash talk is important. Is it important for us, our community? Like, no, not really. Like, Rebecca makes a great point. Like, the marketing is for the eyes. It's for the people that are, buying the fight in mass. We account for probably like 15% of the actual buys of pay-per-views. But you look at some of the guys that created something out of nothing, like Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva, that set the tone. I think that the reason there's a Jake Paul today is partly because of that. The reason why some of these guys are as successful as they're being, and they have no history in combat sports, is the fact that they're really great on the mic. Like, look who's, stealing the headlines, YouTubers and TikToks. What are the TikTokers? What do these people have in common? They do what we're doing now all the time. And so they build this stuff. And you look at these Jake Paul fights, and they're not done after the fight. It's like, is he going to pay off the bet? Is he going to get the tattoo? Is this going to happen? Like, all that is part of the narrative, and it makes fans excited to the point. And I'll also even say this, not only is trash talking an important factor, but when it's not there, you feel it. I'll tell you, like the Anderson Silva, Jake Paul fight, as exciting as it is in terms of, who's going to win, blah, blah. Like, the other part of it is, like, I've expected trash talk that we haven't got. Anderson Silva is, always been
Silva's not that guy.
Jake Paul's, obviously respects Anderson Silva, which he should, and that missing from Anderson Silva got interviewed on Showtime, last Saturday. And if you missed it, that's okay. You didn't have to watch it. There wasn't anything overly exciting about it, or, it's just,
he didn't say anything.
Exactly. And it's missing that stuff. You know what I mean? And that's what adds to the drama for a huge percentage of fans.
All I'll say is this before we proceed. I just think, I feel like when boxers used to do things, like B mentioned Bernard grabbing a Puerto Rican flag, throwing it in the ground, that wasn't an act. Like, he was doing that to get in his head, and he had a bunch of Puerto Ricans, he had to run away because they were going to trample him.
Right? Sickest thing I ever seen doing that. There was like 40,000 people.
Yeah, that was like, he took a risk doing that. You know what I mean?
To do that, man. Jesus.
Like, all I'm saying, Mayorga used to say some disgusting things about fighters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he, that's who he was, though. Like, I just feel like today fighters do it just to do it. They'll start trash talking because they're being told, oh, that's what you need to do to sell the fight. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's happening more than ever now, in my opinion. I'm not surprised, baby, you didn't bring up how Durant played with Leonard's head.
Yeah, he called Sugar Ray Leonard's wife the W word. Yeah, it's horrible.
Terrible. Yeah.
Horrible.
Like, they used to cross the line back then, which I'm not advocating for, but
80s.
It was different.
And on the other side, look how they treated Andre Ward, who didn't trash talk as much, right? And people question him all the time, and they hurl such unfair criticisms at him, boring this, boring that. But why don't we hear that about Floyd as much anymore? Why doesn't everybody ever mention the fact that Floyd's fights a lot of them were snoozers, but they don't mention it because the excitement came in other forms, you know what I mean? And that goes directly to your point, D.
They were better. They were better at trash talking back in the day too. Man.
Felt like it.
Prince Nassim Hamed, man, he was hilarious, man. He was
so funny.
He was the best.
Well, you can
Now
say a
they
lot
bet
more words
Pokemon
back then, guys. It's a different era.
Yeah, absolutely. All
I mean,
right,
talking about eating people's children, that's a press charge in most states in this country now. You can't do that.
Right.
That's a good
yeah,
point.
absolutely.
They'll
That
cancel
gets you canceled real quick.
But let's go ahead and
That's a hashtag in the making.
let's go ahead and proceed here. Let's go ahead and move on. But look, there's a lot of fights. We can't talk about all of them. We talked about some of the main ones, but there's a lot of fights. Whether it's a fight we mentioned, whether it's a fight we didn't mention, what's an underrated fight that you believe the boxing fans should keep an eye out for? I'll start with you, Lyndon.
This is a pretty easy one for me, guys. It's an all Aussie fight here in Australia. It's Matchroom's first foray into the Australian market. And it's a young guy named Liam Paro, ranked number 2 with the WBO at the moment at 140. He's up against Brock Jarvis, 22-0, I think, or 20-0. Paro's 22-0. Jarvis is trained by the legendary Jeff Fennick, and really big fight here in Australia. It's a little bit unfortunate it's on the same weekend as Kambosos and Haney. It's taken away a little bit of the attention on that, but it's going to be a really, really good fight. It's on DAZN, so it's all part of your package over there, I'm assuming. So if you can check it out, I'm not quite sure of the time differences to the States to Australia at the moment. It's on, I think it's about 9 o'clock on Australian time. So do your sums there. But really, really good fight. Liam Paro, Brock Jarvis. Lock it in. It will be a ripper. Okay,
all right. Christine?
I mean, I'm not sure if it's going to be televised or not, but Jenny Fuchs, Michaela's best friend, she was an Olympian. She is a badass. She's super strong. She's super fast. The girl is, this is going to be her second fight. She needs to be whirlwind up there. And I think Michaela is going to be able to do that for her because there's so much talent there. And she needs to be on the big stage on a regular. So that is an underrated fight for me that people don't know about.
All right. Joe Habib, what's an underrated fight this weekend, brother?
I'm gonna steal yours because we were talking about this afternoon, man, and we had the pleasure of interviewing this young lady. She was a phenomenal interview too. But she told us she actually fought someone that was a man and she didn't know it. That was crazy. Yeah, Susie Q Rahman's fight, man, against Chamika Johnson, man, for the IBF 122-pound title. That should be a great fight. That should be a great fight.
Yeah, underrated fight for sure. Mario.
Yeah, I don't know if I can have anything that'll be like, oh, you got to watch it. It's gonna be exciting. But there are a lot of things that are off the radar that I think are fun little narratives to keep an eye on. Caroline Dubois, who's I think the sister of Daniel Dubois. She's going to be she's going to be on the Clarissa Shields, Savannah Marshall card. I love that, by the way, that card. It's just awesome. I mean, you have Ebony Jones is on that card as well. Jenny Fuchs, as you mentioned. But the one fight I will say, and this might be surprising, is the Frank Sanchez Carlos Negron fight. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be competitive. I'm not saying this is going to be like a barn burner. What I'm saying is it's going to be a massacre. It's going to be do not blink or you're going to miss one of the highlights of the weekend type of fight. I like Carlos Negron. He's always been a good guy. He's always been a good interview. But I think that Frank Sanchez is the real deal, and I think he's going to show it in a big way on Saturday.
My question to you, Mario, is he actually going to do something? Because the last 3 fights, I saw him at Wilder Fury 3. I saw the Charles Martin card. We saw nothing. You think he's going to chase from that?
That's why I think that's why I'm saying to keep an eye on this. I think Negron offers looks that'll favor exciting Frank Sanchez conclusion.
Mario, if you ever need a PR person, I'm gonna call you. You're the best.
I'm with you on the burning part, not the barn, though.
What you got, Marquise? What you got for this weekend?
I got actually a fight. Honestly, the only thing I'm actually looking forward to on the Haney Kambosos card, I'm looking forward to seeing Andrew Maloney take on Roberto Jimenez. That's actually the fight on that whole card, to be honest with you. That's at least anything resembling 50-50. I think on that card, I think there's a Lorenzo Truck Simpson sighting, by the way, if you want to take a look at that guy. But that's really the fight I'm looking forward to because the Maloney's have never let me down in terms of action fights, and that's the one I'm looking forward to most.
Okay, all right. Rebecca, what you got? Underrated fight this weekend?
I don't know if I would say underrated, but just one that I think people should be paying more attention to. It's definitely Jenny Fuchs, the captain herself. She is now, was this her second pro fight, I believe? And so it's awesome just seeing Team USA starting to go pro and seeing all of them make their way up. So I just think that she deserves more PR and just to keep your eye out on her. Also, just from being a Jersey girl, Vito Mielnicki, I don't think it's going to be televised, but he's on the Wild.
It is televised, to cut you off. That goes on FS2. It's the main event.
Awesome. Well then, Vito Mielnicki, he's lives a few towns away from me, so got to support local Jersey folk. So definitely check him out as well.
Look, for me, it's definitely, and maybe there's a bias to it, but Susie Ramadan, she'll be challenging Shanika Johnson. There's a big age gap. Shanika Johnson is in her prime, so that's a big factor for me, and she's also bigger, but I'm hoping Susie Ramadan pulls it off somehow. You know what I mean? And so
you can get her back, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah, she's great. She's great. Yeah, man, that's. We'll see. I think it's a tall task to ask for, but she could win, though. We'll see. We'll see. I want to talk some boxing news here.
Okay.
I'll start with you, Rebecca. So Conor Benn is saying he wants to clear his name, Eddie Hearn is saying, look, let's let the due process go through. We don't know all the facts yet. Eddie Hearn came out today and he literally said that I don't know why Eddie Hearn is doing this, but he does an interview and he literally says, well, no one's talking about the fact that Shields and Marshall aren't being tested by VADA. Like, I don't know why he's doing this, just to justify this whole situation. But Conor Benn is saying, look, you guys are going to owe me an apology when he clears his name. He has a pending, investigation right now. Things don't look good. But what do you make of the whole thing, Rebecca?
Well, first of all, I'm very surprised that not everyone is getting these drug screenings or drug tests before their fights. I mean, it's a life-saving procedure that I know people think that that's a dramatic term of life-saving, but no. People that have the people that are talking, defending, that saying Ben should have still been able to fight that weekend are the same people who have never been in that ring, haven't had people in that ring. When someone walks in, they're never guaranteed to come out. And that's something that people really don't know the severity of, especially with someone that's on PEDs or supposedly on PEDs. You talk about, like, people have been bringing up Conor Benn versus Chris Algieri. Now, I'm not saying that Chris Algieri was going to win that fight by a landslide, but anyone that saw that fight, absolutely their hearts sank when they saw the power punches that Conor Benn was throwing at Chris Algieri and the way he was knocked out. I've never seen that. I've never seen Chris Algieri get knocked out like that. And I get age is a factor, and, he was more on the B side, but it just goes to show, like, that was in the best case that, Chris came out of that okay, but not everyone does. And the people that care are Chris's family, Chris's fans, everyone that's fought Conor Benn the last few years, those people's fans, family, friends, they care. Because at the end of the day, they're putting their lives on the line. And even if it doesn't affect them now, who says years down the line, brain injuries, head injuries, it all adds up over time. So this is not something to mess about. And I feel like all over boxing Twitter, I feel like we're just being a dead horse. But drug testing should be with every single professional fight. If there's any suspicion, the fight needs to be postponed. Money, boxing makes money. I get, of course, it's a business. That's like the main theme of today. But these people's lives matter first over anything else.
Joe Habib, what did you make? He's saying, people are going to have to apologize to him, whatever that means.
Conor Benn is doing what just about every fighter has done in his position. He's defending himself. Unfortunately, after it's all said and done, usually when the investigation comes out, the majority of times the guys' names don't get cleared. They end up facing punishment for testing positive and having the adverse findings in the tests. My whole thing is the hypocrisy from Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn keeps talking and talking and talking, and he's not helping his fighter. He's hurting his fighter because there's too much footage out there of Eddie Hearn smashing other fighters who have tested positive for PEDs, never once saying that they should get the benefit of the doubt. Now, again, the process has to play itself out. I respect that, right? On one hand, he's saying, oh, well, everyone's condemning him. Okay, but you're saying with 100% certainty that he's innocent. You have no idea. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes with the investigation. You're not a scientist. So what he should just be saying is, he tested positive. There's going to be an investigation. Hopefully, we get to the bottom of this, and if we come to find out that he can get cleared or whatever, take a neutral stance on this. But him being so adamant about how the world is against us and he's being railroaded, what is the BBOC doing wrong here? And he's lying and saying, oh, well, they can't use VADA. There's nothing in their rules that says they can't use VADA. In the Billy Joe Saunders case, they did not use VADA because with stimulants, VADA just flags everything, right? With stimulants, WADA and USADA and UCAD, they allow fighters to take them in training, but not during competition. And the argument is, and I believe this argument, the stimulants are in and out of your system very quickly. You're not really going to get a benefit out of them when you're training. Everyone thinks, oh yeah, it's going to give you all the stamina in the world. Yeah, it's going to make you better. Only for that period of time. But when you don't have the stimulant, you're not going to get that burst of energy anymore. So I agree with how that was handled, right? This is totally different because this drug here, the Clomid, there's a multitude of reasons why this could have been taken by Conor Benn, right? So I just don't understand why he's coming out saying all these things, because Frank Warren did an interview and he was reading the BBOC rules and he was saying, that they can use VADA if they want. They could take VADA's findings and use it in their investigation to determine whether or not they want to suspend Conor Benn. Oh, we're going to take legal action. How are you going to win this case? There's nothing. You can't point to any documentation or rules that says they can't use VADA just because they don't have to use VADA. Just like commissions in this state don't have to use VADA, right? But they can. So, and then he's like, well, the VADA is just so the fighters know if the other guy tests positive, and this whole thing about allowing both fighters to fight if they want to. And that's not how it's done. The commission makes the decision, not the fighters. Okay. Because the commission is supposed to be protective of the fighters. Fighters will do whatever they can to fight it, especially for the amount of money that was on the line. So, I'm not so sure if Conor Benn is going to get an apology. I hope a miracle does occur and maybe he can clear his name. But at the very least, I think he is going to face some type of punishment here. He's going to face some type of suspension, and it's going to have to be, because if they don't, then the BBOC is going to get crucified. They're going to have no credibility after this. They're going to have no credibility after this if they don't do something in this case.
Well, in terms of BBOC credibility,
So, Lyndon, what do you make of Conor Benn's attitude towards this? Do you think it's a right attitude? I mean, even if he does believe he's innocent here?
Oh, look, it's okay for him to believe he's innocent, but geez, if your first sample's tested positive, there's smoke, there's fire, I suppose. But look, he certainly hasn't painted himself in a good light, is probably the underlying thing of it all. And strange enough, Chris Eubank, who's always probably been the enemy of a lot of the fans out there, has come out actually looking pretty good. He made weight the day after he was supposed to, or the day on he was supposed to, 159.3, whatever he was. So he did the right thing. So he's actually used this whole situation to his advantage. Look, it's an unfortunate situation. I think the most disturbing thing that I saw was that it was sort of leaked that if this hadn't been leaked by the media, that the fight probably would have proceeded as planned, which is, it's disturbing when you think how many fights maybe in the past have gone ahead when there's been these things happening in the background. So look, but the good thing is he has been caught, I will say. Let's wait and see what the B sample says, but at this stage it doesn't look good. And if it is that way, well, he deserves to bear the brunt of all the laws or whatever it is that come down on him. But I've just got a suspicion that no matter what happens, this fight won't happen in the future. I don't know, maybe call it a gut feel, but I think this was the one chance it was going to happen, and I think it's now dead in the water, especially if he comes back with the B sample being positive as well.
All right, Marquise, what did you make of Conor's been attitude here and Hearn? What do you make of this whole situation?
Oh, all Hearn's doing, guys, is the old classic deny, which he usually does when things like this happens in front of his face over and over again. It's kind of funny. It kind of reminds me of those old Bugs Bunny cartoons when Elmer Fudd gets like that box that Bugs leaves for him. He's like, "Oh, what's in this box?" And it blows up in his face. That's kind of what this is. And my day job, guys, is dealing with urine samples all day in drug testing. The odds of him having a clear B sample involve either one of two things: the person who picked up the urine, dropped it, or fumbled it, or put their own urine in it, or some magical case of scenario, the female fertility drugs expired and all the other drugs go away with it. Either way, he's doomed. But it's one of those things where they're just waiting for due process and stalling it. But you can win lottery numbers faster than this B sample being cleared. I just think honestly, it's just a waste of time on everybody's part just being involved with it. I'm really just trying to figure out, what is the BBOC actually going to do this time around? Last time around when this happened with Eddie Hearn, it was Dillian White. We had this whole clear to fight, trace amounts nonsense, which brings up the Lyndon's point you mentioned before. where I think what was supposed to happen before here was that dirty test was supposed to happen after that Ben Eubank fight, and we were supposed to hear about this after that and be all outraged, but they caught it beforehand, thank God. And also as well, we answered beforehand, D-Style. Hearn's complaining about Shields Marshall not going with Vada. Does Hearn have Twitter? Does he follow Vada? They tested in September, bro. Take a look. It's all right. It's right there. But that's where we are with that.
Wow. Okay. All right, Christine. What do you make? He says you will all have to apologize to me, and he will clear his name.
Well,
or he's pregnant.
I was going to touch on what Marquis said too, because he did mention the Clarissa Shields Marshall fight, and Clarissa, she checked him on Twitter, and he apologized. she got on his ass.
He had to.
Exactly. And Conor. So we know, we've talked about it many times before. When you're guilty, you talk a lot. He's talking a lot. Just sit back and let's see. Do I feel he's guilty? Yeah, I do. I mean, look at him. You look at past fights, how he's performed, how his body looked, and then now it's like, really, he looked like he was plastic, like he was a little superhero, like a little whatever. So yeah, it's nobody's gonna apologize to him. And on a serious note, I've talked about this before. I had a fighter. We fought for a world title. And the other guy was clearly on PEDs. And my guy was never the same. Never, ever the same. He was injured so badly. And it is not fair to the fighter, to the family, to the sport, to anything. It's very dangerous. It is literally life or death. And we've got to put a stop to it. We do. So I'm just like, you know what? Let's blow the story up. Let's see what's going on. And let's do what we need to do.
You're on mute, D.
Oh, my bad. Mario, he's going to want an apology.
Y'all ready to get crazy? Listen, I've actually been researching a story for this, okay? And I've been doing some digging, and I've interviewed a few doctors and some other people with biochemistry knowledge, and this is what I can say right now. Is anybody going to give him an apology? No. Should anybody? Absolutely not. That doesn't mean he's not going to get redemption, because what everybody has to understand is that this investigation is still ongoing. And the one thing that we've seen happen in combat sports time and time again is post exemptions that ultimately clear the fighter, and not clear the fighter in the eyes of the public, not clear the fighter in the eyes of his peers, but clear the eyes for the people that essentially want the fights to go on and make the money. That's what this is ultimately about. That's where this all kind of, murkiness stems from. What he got caught with, and just so people understand, it's not in and of itself the drug that's super dangerous. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a performance enhancer still. What happens when you take steroids is the body produces synthetic testosterone, okay? And your synthetic testosterone goes way up. After you cycle off, what happens is your body realizes that it's creating synthetic, so it stops producing natural testosterone. So what happens is after your cycle, you have to take what's called a post-cycle. These drugs essentially boost your natural testosterone, and if abused, can have absolutely performance-enhancing quality. So again, it's not that what he took is scary. It's what he could have taken that necessitated this drug in the first place. This is a female fertility drug. And just so people understand too, the percentage of testing you can throw, it's like, I think it's like 80 to 90%, I think, something like that, accuracy. Okay, when you check the research on clomiphene, right? That's what he got popped for. You'll see that there are very few studies that have any definitive knowledge about what it actually does to the body. A lot of this is bro science. And I'm not saying that, Conor's, got dumb people on his team or anything, but Lou DiBella mentioned it on Twitter the other day. He's seen time and time again, these guys infiltrate these gyms, okay? And they're all like gym rats and, steroid guys, and they're pumping these guys full of stuff or giving them stuff that they have no idea what's in it, and they're taking it, whether they want the edge legally or not, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, when you pop, the fight shouldn't happen. That, again, does not mean he's not going to get an exemption after the fact by the way, this is a drug that they do give exemptions for in MMA. Now, I don't know much about British boxing. I don't know much about, what they allow and what they don't allow as far as exemptions. But I know that there was an era in combat sports where everybody was getting TRT.
Everybody was on it last decade.
And
everybody was on it.
That is way more dangerous than anything else that could be given an exemption for. So, again, I'm not saying that Conor Benn's not guilty. I'm not saying he is guilty. I'm saying none of us are going to know. He's going to be judged in the public the way everybody like Canelo, Fury, anybody else's name that has been thrown in with PDs before. But ultimately, it's the people that want to make the money. That's why the fight was going to go on in the first place. And they're going to find ways to maneuver around the rules and essentially make it okay. I don't know if it should be okay or not. I don't know what fertility issues Conor may or may not be having. All I know is that that there are a lot of not dry.
I'll say this, Mario. This is all I'm going to say before I go to the last topic. That's all I'm going to say. He didn't wait for due process for Miller when he tested positive against AJ, and there's footage of him where he criticized him, and he said in his own words, "I'm not even a fighter with a lot of money, but I have my nutritionist, and they check everything I take." That's what he said, right? So, you got to watch what you take, and I just think there's an investigation looming on whether he did it more, right? It could get worse by the looks of it. And to me, look, if you're testing positive and people are criticizing you, the right attitude should not be, "Oh, you're all going to pay. You're going to have to apologize to me." I don't know that's the right
at all.
Because at best, this is at best, he was ignorant and took something he shouldn't have taken. That's at best. Well, it's not our fault, right? Even if he did it unintentionally. But that's what I'll say about that. One last topic.
Really quick.
Go ahead.
Something really quick, please. Are we that naive to not think or to not know that these people that are taking these performance-enhancing drugs do not have people that are smarter that use other drugs to mask what they're really
to hide
doing?
them?
I was about to say, Christine, this drug is rarely taken by itself. It's rarely taken by itself. It's part of
exactly.
It's part of the shake. It's part of the shake.
Rarely used by itself.
The lesser evil. Let's not be that ignorant. Let's not.
Yeah.
And one more point to add: if this is part of that, it would mean that the cycle he ran in the first place is long gone out of his system if he's already at the end of post. You know what I mean? So it's
one last thing about the trace elements. And Gabe touched upon this last week, and he's 100% correct. When you take a urine test, you're not going to piss out a pill. I mean, your body is assimilating and metabolizing the drug, and you're gonna urinate out what's left of the drug that your body didn't use. So it's always going to be trace elements for the most part when you take a urine test, because your body's using the drug that you've taken.
Absolutely.
So they try to use.
I don't like this argument of, they just found a small trace amount. Look.
Yeah, that's what they're able for, though.
If somebody is missing, let's say a person goes missing, right? And they find a trace amount of their blood in the trunk of my car, okay? They're not going to say it's a trace amount. It's just a small little amount. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. It's a really small amount. Like evidence is that it is what it is.
Do you have an attorney?
Yeah. We should treat drug testing like taboo, right? If you're playing taboo and you say any one of those words, it's a buzz. If you're fighting and you're getting drug tested and any one of those banned substances pop, that's a buzz, and that's game over.
Yeah.
Well said. Frank Warren came out and he said, "Look, the Fury fight's off the table." Okay, Jake Donovan did a good job. It's a boxing scene story he put out. But hey, he said Dubois and Joyce, they're still on the table if AJ wants it. You know what I mean? If you want it, you got it, right? Let's start with you, Mario. Are those two fights, which one would you rather AJ fight?
Oh man,
if any, or do you want him to
I would rather him fight Joe Joyce.
Man.
That's the fight for me out of those two. right, that settles something. And I'm not trying to hold a loss against Dubois because Joshua has plenty of those already, but I think that there has to be some sort of like, I mean, it's a juggernaut versus AJ. Like that would be huge. That would be great. That said, I will put like a little wrench in it. And I am of the firm belief that Wilder and AJ are going to fight next year. I think it's almost all said but done. I think that I'm not saying that there's paper. I'm not saying that there's been any contract signed. I think that both sides, Eddie and Wilder's lawyer, are both of the understanding of where their place is right now. And I think they understand the climate of boxing at this point. They need each other. It's one of the biggest fights. Wilder said it, this morning, I think that, that's still the biggest fight in boxing and it's bigger than Fury Usyk. And he's not wrong. So I think that's the fight we're going to see. I think they're pretty much ready to, negotiate that once they take care of the business at hand.
Okay. Who's your favorite, Joyce or AJ?
I hate that you asked that question. AJ.
That's a part. Okay. Ooh,
yeah.
All right, Christina, the two fighters that Warren mentioned, Dubois, Joyce, would you rather AJ fight next?
I have to go with Joe Joyce too. I mean, Dubois and he are both strong. Dubois is a little reckless at times. Joe Joyce has a little bit better boxing style. I think I would rather see that.
Okay. Who would win?
I think I've said it before. I think AJ's mental strength has diminished a little bit. So I'm going to have to say Joe Joyce. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Marquise, at this point of Joshua's career, at this moment, Dubois or Joyce, would you rather him fight?
If old Fish Eyes isn't offering Joyce or Dubois, it's got to be Joyce, right? I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer with that, let's be honest, because Joyce beat Dubois. We all saw that. And at this point, we saw recency bias. We saw Joyce recently knock out Joseph Parker. It's clearly the fight to make, honestly. Well, the odds of Warren and Hearn getting together and making that fight happen are about as slim as that B sample being clean and everything else that Eddie Hearn's rambling about. In my personal favorite from Eddie Hearn, Ryan Garcia, Maxie Hughes, he said, dead to my fucking face in March. I'm still waiting on that fight nonetheless. So I'll keep it moving on that point. But I think Joyce AJ is the fight to make, and give me Joyce because Joyce has a higher motor at this point.
Okay. Well, let me add before I proceed to the last three. So the reason I'm asking, because look, if I'm Eddie Hearn, I'm not going to put him in there with Joyce. I'm going to put him in there with Dubois. It's a winnable fight.
But if I'm Eddie Hearn, and I got to Warren,
it's a good fight.
And
it's a good fight, and it's a more winnable fight. I'm just saying that's my opinion. But Lyndon, what would you like to see out of those two fights for AJ, and who wins?
Oh, look, I think Joyce is the fighter we'd like to see him fight, but the smart fight would probably be Dubois because it's probably the safer fight. But look, I think the Joshua before the Usyk fights beats Joyce, but I think the one we've seen in the last two fights, he just seems mentally fragile these days and doesn't really believe in himself as much as he used to, and that plays a massive part, where Joyce is obviously coming off that really good win over Parker, and I think if they fought next, I would definitely pick Joyce to probably stop AJ, I would think.
Okay, all right, babe. I know what you're going to say, but go ahead.
I think both fights are very tough at this stage for Joshua to take. If I'm the manager and I'm part of 258, I'm not going to take either one. Okay, but since I know you don't like it, I have to take one. As a fan, I love the Joe Joyce fight, but again, I don't think it's the right fight right now. So if I have to pick one, as a fan, I would pick Joyce, but if I'm trying to give him a better fight to come back against, I would take Dubois. I think Dubois is a safer opponent.
What are the results in those fights, in your opinion?
I would pick. Wow, I think Joyce would right now. I think Joyce destroys Anthony Joshua. I think he destroys him. Dubois could win that fight, but I'd have to edge AJ over Dubois right now.
Okay. And Rebecca, Warren says they're both on the table. Which one would you like, and who wins?
Joyce and Joyce. But to go off what Mario was saying before, I just need to say this. I disagree. I am more interested in seeing Fury versus Usyk. And I think a lot of people are. I just had to put that out there. I know that wasn't the question, but I was just like, I want to say something. But yeah, I think that I feel like for Joshua, I feel like if he gets in the ring with Joyce, I think that Joyce, like we talked about earlier with Joshua, having that kind of, he's emotionally not there the way he used to be. But I think that if there was even a shot of him winning against Joyce, I think that that gives him kind of a ticket back to that possible heavyweight title contention again. If there's like even a shot, like I think that that's kind of like his like last kind of stitch effort to get into that position. And it's a long shot. But if he's still trying to think that way, that would be the way to go.
Yeah, as far as Joyce, I never seen anybody do that to Parker, and I don't think anyone's going to be in a rush to fight him. I don't think anyone's going to get in the ring with him right now, unless they have to. You know what I mean? So I think Dubois is the way they'll probably go, if it even happens. But I would favor Joyce against AJ at this point, and I never thought I would say that, to be honest with you, till recently. Look, I want to thank everybody for joining the roundtable. Just really quick, Rebecca, tell everybody where they can find you.
First, just wanted to thank you again for having me for the 2nd year anniversary. It's a special roundtable talk to be a part of. I've met some amazing people through this network, so thank you again. You guys can follow me on Instagram at Rebecca Ruber, Twitter at Rebecca Ruber, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Inside the Ring with Rebecca Ruber. And if you guys have Sirius XM, tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be on Sirius XM Fight Nation with
Fight Nation
and Randy Gordon, and I'll be talking about the Wilder Helenius fight. So check it out.
Awesome.
All right.
And Lyndon, tell everybody where they can find you, brother, what you got going on in your channel.
Yeah, boxing deep dive on Instagram and YouTube, of course. So we every week we do classic fights, dream fights. We have a weekly show plus some specials. So check out today's episode went up with a preview of Kambosos, Haney, and Paro Jarvis. So make sure you check that out. But yeah, boxing deep dive, and really appreciate you having me on, mate. It's great, and hopefully I'll be back again.
Absolutely. And make sure you catch In the Ring with Christine, Women Crushing Wednesday, every Wednesday. Okay, Marcus Johnson, she got his work, nyfights.com, all that good stuff. And Joe Habib brings her reporter. And here, my channel's my channel. You guys are already here, so you already know about me. So there you go. This is D-Style Boxing. Keep it boxing. We're out of here. Peace out, guys.
Peace.